All right, the man you're about to meet believed he had a near-perfect life. Nathan was happily married and had a healthy young son. Then 3 years ago, his wife went to a Bible class and never came home, lost to a religious cult that's torn her family apart.
Hello.
The life that I had with a beautiful, vivacious girl has been completely destroyed. What I've lost is truly lost.
It was, on the surface at least, a marriage made in heaven.
I never anticipated that things would unravel in such a sinister way.
Nathan and his wife Kylie met through a church group. They were married, then 9 years ago she gave birth to their only child, Liam. But 3 years ago things changed dramatically, in virtually the blink of an eye.
She said, I'm going to my Bible study group, I'll be home for dinner. And my then 6-year-old son and I waved her off as she drove down the driveway. She's never been home since. Library stuff in your bag?
Yes, Dad, I've got all my books.
And have you got your homework? They've robbed
yes, Dad.
her family of a daughter, a sister, a niece, a granddaughter, and they've also robbed me of a soulmate.
Kylie had joined a religious sect, a cult whose members include people who believe they've been subjected to horrendous ritual satanic abuse at the hands of their own families.
These people believe that they're engaged in spiritual warfare. They convince people that they've endured this abuse, that it's responsible for any emotional issues that they might have.
Very little is known about the movement apart from the fact that they're based here in the Blue Mountains west of Sydney. There's no designated leader, there's not even a central place of worship. But what we do know is that Kylie was taken by members of the movement to another church in Canberra known as the Shepherd's Heart.
Baby didn't enjoy having a birdie with the baby.
Oh.
Birdie would have come and then he would have
Shepherd's Heart's Canberra leader is John Darnell.
You seem pretty upset. How old are you?
4.
He and his wife Glenys are demonstrating what the church considers to be appropriate counselling.
We know that there's a demon there who's claiming possession of you.
Shepherd's Heart calls it dissociative identity disorder, a theory shared by the Mountains cult, a belief that followers have suffered abuse so awful they've repressed the memories and that only cult members can counsel them. Followers are encouraged to put down their thoughts on paper. Kylie left pages and pages of them.
All of these dots were portrayed to me as representing multiple personalities.
Hundreds and
hundreds of them. Some of them had names, and some of them were identified as demonic.
If they happen to meet a bad therapist, this is what they end up with.
Professor Grant de Villiers is from Griffith University's School of Psychology.
My guess is in about 100 years' time, we'll look back at this whole area of dissociative identity disorder and repressed memory therapy, and people will just shake their heads and say, what do they think they were doing?
Their beliefs changed and became more extreme.
Wendy Morton joined a church group 14 years ago, one which included members of the Mountains cult, but soon saw some worrying signs.
One of the group used to lie on the ground and speak with what he said was the voice of God. They predicted the return of Christ at a particular time and ascribed certain roles for members of that group in relation to the return of Christ.
Wendy left soon after, but Nathan's not giving up, even though he and Kylie are now divorced.
So we're heading out now to where you think she's staying, but you're not 100% sure, is that right?
No, I'm not 100% sure, but I've got a suspicion.
I think we're just about close to where you thought she might be, so we'll pull over and have a look.
Nathan's here to hand over Liam's baby book and a memory stick of photos and videos.
What sort of response would you expect when you knock on the door?
I hope that she's willing to talk, but I don't hold very much hope because, you know, she's changed so much. She's been changed so much.
A few minutes later, he's back.
How did it go?
Well, she was home and her minders were home.
Did you get to talk to Kylie?
Oh, and only very briefly, but she had no interest in speaking with me or going over the material that I'd left for her. She just told me to leave it and leave.
and return to life as a single dad whose son is old enough to remember when times were very, very different.
Occasionally he'll wake up in bed at night and he'll cry for her, and at other times he shrugs his shoulders and gets on with life. In the meantime, I put him to bed every night saying, "Mummy and Daddy love you very much." And I'll keep telling him that until he says, "Dad, who are you kidding?"
That is so hard to cope with. Poor families.